If you ask most people which country makes the world's finest watches, they'll say Switzerland. But ask a serious collector and they'll tell you that Japan has been building brilliant timepieces on the planet for over a century. So today, we're counting down the 10 best Japanese watch brands. Let's get started. Starting our countdown at number 10 is Orient. Orient is one of Japan's oldest and most integrated watch manufacturers. The idea was conceived by Shogoro Yoshida in 1950, somewhere in Tokyo. This is one watch brand that doesn't outsource. They design, produce and assemble most of their watch components entirely in-house. Orient operates as a subsidiary of Seiko Epson, but it's always maintained its distinct identity. It's best known for mechanical watches, particularly the Orient Star collection and the iconic Bambino dress watch series. Both have become favourites among entry-level collectors looking for quality without paying a premium price. Now, what makes Orient special is its commitment to traditional mechanical watchmaking at a price that's accessible to almost anyone. And for many, it stays on the wrist long after they've upgraded to something more expensive. Now that's the entry point. However, the next brand didn't ease its way into the market. Moving up to number 9, we have Casio. Casio has been around since 1946, founded in Tokyo by Tadao Casio and his brothers as an electronics company. Their move into watchmaking in the 1970s was deliberate, but it was the G-Shock that defined everything that came after. One idea, and suddenly Casio had a product that military units, rescue divers, construction workers and rappers all wanted on their wrists at the same time. That kind of cross-demographic appeal doesn't happen by accident. What most people don't realise is how far up Casio's lineup actually goes. The ProTrek brought solar charging and GPS navigation to outdoor watches. They also have the MRG line sitting in luxury territory with atomic timekeeping and the Oceanus. It blows our mind that from a $50 digital watch, Casio has migrated to a $3,000 titanium precision instrument. Honestly, Casio covers more ground than almost any brand on this list, and it does all of it without ever losing sight of what got it here. A G-Shock on a construction worker's wrist is one thing, but number 8 did something no one thought was possible. We have the Citizen. When Citizen launched in 1930, the philosophy was straightforward. It was a well-made timepiece that shouldn't be reserved for the few. Rather, they were made for anyone to own and trust. That idea drove the company for decades, and then in 1976, it produced something that changed the entire conversation around what a watch could be. It was the Eco Drive, a movement powered entirely by light stored in a capacitor. Just wear it near a window once in a while and it runs indefinitely. That one innovation did two things simultaneously. It solved a problem that every quartz watch owner had always lived with, and it made Citizen one of the forward-thinking brands in the industry decades before sustainability became a selling point. Interestingly, the Pro Master line was built on that foundation with dive watches, pilot watches and field watches. Citizen also owns Bulova, Frédéric Constant and Alpina. All of that from a company that started with the simple belief that good watches belong to everyone. Up next is a brand that was never meant for millions. It was built for the few who know exactly what they're looking at. Making it to number 7 is Credor. Most people outside Japan have never heard of Credor, and that's entirely by design. Credor is Seiko's high-end luxury division, created in 1974 exclusively for the Japanese domestic market. It wasn't until recently that the brand began attracting serious international attention. Credor specializes in some of the most refined haute horlogerie pieces to ever come out of Asia. They created the spring drive sonnery, which is one of the most technically demanding complications in all of watchmaking. Yoshikazu Akahane, the Seiko engineer who developed spring drive, spent over 20 years working on it before it reached production. That level of commitment is written into every Credor watch. This is Swiss-level horology that was never built to compete with Switzerland. Rather, it was built because Japan decided it could do it. Credor is the ghost in the luxury machine, but our next entry never needed the spotlight to prove anything. Up next at number 6 is Miyota. Founded in 1959 as a subsidiary of Citizen, Miyota is Japan's largest manufacturer of watch movements. They don't sell watches to consumers directly, instead they supply movements to hundreds of watch brands across the globe. Brands ranging from Shinola to Christopher Ward have relied on Miyota's calibers to power their collections. The Miyota 9015 movement in particular is considered one of the finest automatic movements in the world. Without Miyota, a significant portion of the watches that offer mechanical quality at accessible prices simply wouldn't exist. And the fact that most wearers never know their name is, in a way, the highest compliment a movement manufacturer can receive. Although Miyota moved in silence, the next brand on our list built its reputation on something harder to fake. But before we go any further, if you're learning something new, hit the like button and subscribe. Now back to the countdown. Moving up to number 5 is Naoya Hida Co. Founded in 2018 by industry veteran Naoya Hida, this independent Japanese brand built its reputation on something much harder to fake. At first glance, the watches look almost simple. Clean dials, elegant numerals, slim cases, and proportions so balanced they feel effortless. But that simplicity is exactly what makes them so difficult to execute. Collectors quickly took notice, and now each release is produced in small numbers, making them some of the hardest Japanese watches to actually get your hands on. Naoya Hida proves that Japanese watchmaking doesn't always need to shout to be extraordinary. But our next brand didn't whisper its way into history, it changed the industry forever. Up next is the Seiko. Kintaro Hattori founded Seiko in Tokyo in 1881. For about 100 years, the company grew slowly by making reliable watches. Then in 1969, Seiko did something that the Swiss watch industry still hasn't gotten over. They released the Astron. It was the world's first quartz wristwatch, and it caused what people now call the quartz crisis. Within 10 years, hundreds of Swiss watchmakers went out of business or were bought out. The industry that had ruled luxury watches for centuries was destroyed, and a Japanese company did it with a $1,250 watch that kept time better than almost anything Switzerland was making. The Seiko 5 sports line became the world standard for affordable automatic watches. Not only that, the Prospects collection, which includes the Turtle, Samurai and Sumo, gained a devoted following among dive watch collectors. And through all of this, Seiko has remained one of the only watch companies in the world that makes every single part itself. Rolex doesn't even fully do that, but Seiko does. Now, as we enter our top 3, we leave the giant factories behind for a small workshop in the snowy Akita prefecture. Making it to number 3 is Minase. Minase is a small independent watchmaker in Akita Prefecture, northern Japan. They make some of the most precisely shaped watch cases in the world. The company started in 2005 as a branch of Kyowa Company, which has made parts of Japanese aerospace and medical industry since 1954. Each Minase watch case is carved from a single solid block of metal using computer-controlled machines. This creates a level of exactness and surface smoothness that traditional case makers can't easily match. In fact, the Minase 5 Windows, Divido and Horizon collections have gained loyal fans around the world. Interestingly, most Minase watches use Swiss movements from brands like Voucher or ETA. That lets Minase focus entirely on what it does better than almost anyone else. However, our runner-up is a masterclass in human patience. We have Hajime Asaoka at number 2. Hajime Asaoka is in a factory. He's one man operating at a level most brands can't fake. Trained as an industrial designer, he taught himself traditional watchmaking and went on to build hand-finished timepieces that collectors now compare with some of the finest independents in Switzerland. Asaoka makes tourbillon watches, a type of high-end watch movement entirely by hand using parts he created. Each watch takes about 1 year to finish. The detail finishing on the inner parts is just as good as, or even better than, that of the finest Swiss watch shops. Now, we've seen the giants and the rebels, but you need to see our number 1. The only timepiece to be called the perfect realization of Japanese philosophy. And taking the top spot is the Grand Seiko Spring Drive. If there is one Japanese watch brand that has forced the entire world to stop underestimating Japan, it's Grand Seiko. This brand was established in 1960 to make the perfect watch. For many years, almost no one outside Japan knew about them, even though they were popular at home. Then in 2017, they began selling watches worldwide, and to everyone's surprise, watch lovers loved them right away. When people first hold a Grand Seiko, they're amazed by the mirror-like finish on the metal edges. This is done by hand using a Japanese sword polishing method called zaratsu. The result is so smooth and sharp that it looks unreal. Moving on, these guys are one of the very few brands on earth that have mastered all 3 major forms of watchmaking at the highest level: mechanical, quartz, and spring drive. Spring drive took decades to develop and remains one of the most brilliant movements ever created. It combines the soul of a mechanical watch with the accuracy of quartz, and that's exactly why Grand Seiko takes the crown. because no other Japanese brand has managed to combine craftsmanship, innovation, history, and identity completely. It doesn't just prove that Japan can compete with Switzerland, but Japan was never behind to begin with. So tell us in the comments which brand on this list genuinely surprised you. And if you already own a Japanese watch, drop the reference below. We want to know what's on your wrist. Meanwhile, if you're ready to see how the legends in the Alps are fighting to keep their status, click right here to see the best Swiss watch brands and decide for yourself who truly deserves the crown. I'll see you in the next one.